So the President of the United States, along with the Prime Minister of Singapore, just did a joint press conference. And this fellow is with the ruling People's Action Party, PAP, and they have ruled Singapore since 1959. Now, this is a country that the president wants to get us in bed with the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That was the essence of their whole argument, their whole press conference. So you go over to Human Rights Watch, hrw.org, and just look at Singapore. The government maintains restrictions on the freedom of peaceful assembly through provisions of the Public Order Act, which require a police permit for any assembly in a public place to which members of the general public are invited. Grounds for denial are broad. Associations of more than 10 people are required to register with the government, and the Register of Societies has broad authority to deny registration. So if you and me and 8 other people decided that we wanted to get together and form our own little, Progressive Democrats group or Tea Party group or whatever, we would have to register with the government if we lived in Singapore, and the government could say, no, you can't have that group. You have no right to peaceful assembly. You have no right to petition your government for redress of grievances. The government's Media Development Authority, the MDA, this is a government agency, compels online news websites covering domestic and political issues to register under the Broadcasting Act. Registration requires posting a monetary bond, paying fees, undergoing annual registration, and on notification, immediately removing anything the MDA deems to be against public interest, public order, or national harmony, or offensive to good taste or decency. So, under this law, in February 2015, Singaporean police arrested a Singaporean and an Australian who were co-editors of the news portal The Real Singapore and charged them in April of 2015 with 7 counts of sedition for publishing articles the authorities claimed, quote, had a tendency to promote feelings of ill will and hostility between different groups of people in Singapore, end quote. In May, they suspended the operating license of The Real Singapore. This is an online website. They shut it down. And in September, a court sentenced Filipino national Ed Muncel Bello, who worked in Singapore as a nurse, to 4 months in prison for comments he posted online disparaging Singaporeans. Come to Singapore, say the wrong thing, you go to jail. I can tell you from personal experience. I didn't go to jail, but my hotel room got trashed by the police in Singapore. Government officials continue to use criminal and civil defamation as a means to silence critics. The Films Act authorizes the banning, seizing, censoring, or restriction of written, visual, and musical offerings on vague and overly broad grounds. All films and videos to be shown in Singapore. Before you can show a film or video in Singapore, it must be approved by the Board of Film Censors. They got the story about the 16-year-old blogger, a Singaporean by the name of Amos Yee Pang Sang, who released an online video, Lee Kuan Yew is dead. He was the former dictator of Singapore. And Singaporean prosecutors promptly charged Yee with violating Penal Code 298, uttering words with deliberate intent to wound the religious and racial feelings of any person, for derogatory references to Christianity in the video, and Penal Code 291 sub A1A for transmitting obscene materials. Bail conditions, which he violated, restricted his right to free expression by stipulating he could not post anything online while his trial was ongoing. In total, he spent 53 days in detention and was sentenced in July to 4 weeks in prison. During legislative debate in Parliament, Singapore's Protection from Harassment Act was explained as a law designed to protect individuals and civil servants from indecent, threatening, abusive, insulting words or behavior. The Ministry of Defense claimed it was being harassed by entrepreneur Ting Chung Meng and directors of the Online Citizen, an online news portal which carried a story about Dr. Ting. The doctor had alleged that the Ministry of Defense had stolen his patent for an emergency medical care vehicle. It just goes on and on. Singapore uses the Internal Security Act and criminal laws, the ISA and a criminal law called Temporary Provisions Act, to arrest and administratively detain persons for virtually unlimited periods without charge and without judicial review. This is a very different kind of judicial review than what we were talking about on the air yesterday with regard to the Supreme Court. Singapore retains the death penalty, which is mandated for drug offenses and certain other crimes. They sentence low-level offenders to life in prison and caning. Use of corporal punishment is common in Singapore. For medically fit males aged 16 to 50, caning is mandatory. Caning is where they whip you with a cane. Is mandatory as an additional punishment for a range of crimes, including drug trafficking, armed robbery, and even immigration offenses. Sentencing officials may also order caning for some 30 additional violent and nonviolent crimes. Singapore maintains the archaic offense of scandalizing the judiciary, which can be imposed for any criticism of the judiciary or any specific judge. And then they talk about a popular blogger who was a lesbian, was convicted for scandalizing the judiciary. By the way, the top government leaders reiterated the Singaporean society is not ready to accept LGBT rights. You can go to jail for gay behavior in Singapore.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
And it goes on and on. I mean, I refer you to Human Rights Watch. Why President Obama is kissing this guy, I don't know. We'll be here.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.